Just when I thought I had my digital pen situation all sorted out, Wacom releases this. This is the new Pro Pen Slim, and we're going to review it and go over it in a second.
Out of bed today. Keep waking up from the previous night.
Okay, before we tear the box off of this thing, let's pay some bills. Now, a quick note on compatibility. This is going to be compatible across the entire Wacom line of Pro devices. That includes the Intuos Pro, the Cintiq Pro, and the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro. In the package we have the pen holder, some colored rings for customization, and just an instruction booklet, so pretty light setup. Open a pen holder and it's like finding an Easter egg. The pen is inside, tucked in nicely. Finally, you pop off the cap at the end and there's your spare nibs. Now, to change out your nibs, you need to open up the pen holder inside. There's this little metal doohickey. You stick the tip in there, tilt the pen slightly, and the nib will pop right out. Finally, we have a nice shot of the pen outside of the pen holder. In addition to the most obvious of it being thin, it's not as thick to thin as in like the Pro Pen 2, meaning it's pretty much straight all the way down except for the tip. Now, to try to make a comparison, against the two other Pro Pens, which is the Pro Pen 2 and the 3D Pro Pen, I've got a little illustration going on here to try to show you, basically what the similarities and what the differences are. First, what's the same? Well, they have the same pen pressure. Both feature tilt. The pressure is on the pen tip and the eraser. Slight differences: the 3D pen has 3 buttons as opposed to 2, and no eraser. Both the Slim Pen and the Pro Pen 2 feature 2 buttons and a full eraser. Now, specifically, what is the exact differences in the size between the 3 pens? We're going to go over that in a second. Starting from the 3D pen at the bottom, Pro Pen 2 in the middle, and then the Slim Pen up at the top. You'll see the 3D pen is 14.3 millimeters, the Pro Pen 2 is 15 millimeters, and the Slim Pen is 10 millimeters up at the top. That's going to be the thickest point of all these pens. And moving down to the bottom barrel of the pen, the 3D pen is going to be 11.3 millimeters. The Pro Pen 2 is the thickest at 11.9 millimeters, and the Slim Pen obviously is the thinnest of the 3 at 9.5 millimeters. Here you see the Pro Pen 2 and the Slim Pen in my hand, trying to make a comparison here. The camera does not pick up how drastically thinner this Slim Pen is compared to the Pro Pen 2. This is a better comparison, from bottom to the top of how thin this pen is, comparing it to an actual pencil, a Prismacolor pencil, and then a Micron marker up at the top. The closest one I would say is probably the Prismacolor, but if you're really looking to see, you want to put something in your hand and try to figure out what this would feel like, the Micron is going to be the thicker one. Alright, as with any new device, we're going to do a mandatory line test. Now, as always with these line tests, we have the smoothing turned off. This is just a straight hard brush from Photoshop. Again, nice pretty straight lines. We move on from here. Now, bringing up the Wacom tablet properties for the Pro Pen Slim is no different than any other pen or device that Wacom makes, really. You have your global settings, right? By pen, by device. Then you also have your application settings. So we're going to add Photoshop. Okay, and I'm going to make sure I'm clicked on Photoshop, and what I want to do instead of this double click I want to find the radial menu. Okay, good. So in here, obviously, you can set your tip feel, which means, how hard you're pressing down, before you see pressure. You double click distance. If you have that set, that's the distance between the actual tablet glass. The closer you get to it, you can actually be off the glass a little bit and it'll register to double click. What that little slight change allows me to do is when I press the upper key, it's going to bring up the radial menu. From here, what I can do is I can link to either other keys, or I can pin it like so and leave it up on my screen. But this is a great way to have, especially on the Cintiq 16 where you don't have those express keys, this is a great way to improve your workflow and just navigate and get around. One thing about this pen being so thin is that depending on how you hold it, and the camera will probably pick it up, some people naturally draw with the Pro Pen like this where they're not necessarily have the buttons in reach. Sliding through is taking a little bit getting used to because I'm so used to the thickness of the other pen. But the other thing, which I started with the 3D pen, and I'll show in another video, is I've been using my thumb now to click through some of these buttons, and what that allows me to do is not even have to lift the stroke when I'm pressing these buttons. So to each his own is just something that I've observed. Now, even in gesture, without actually holding the pen yourself, it's unbelievable to me how different it feels. Like, it really does feel like you're drawing with a pencil. And the thing is, it still has this rubber matte, well, this not matte but rubber finish that the Pro Pen is known for, so it's not really sliding around in my hands, unlike the Apple Pencil, which feels like it just slides all over the place for me. So one thing I wanted to see, when inking, how I felt about the new thin pen compared to, the thicker and the heavier weighted Pro Pen 2. I see a lot of reviewers out there comparing the Pro Pen Slim to the Apple Pencil. It doesn't feel like the Apple Pencil to me at all. The only thing they have in common is that they're both thin. But this pen feels exactly like you expect, a Wacom pen to feel. The EMR technology, the accuracy, all that. It's not sliding all over the glass. So, when you're reading those comparisons, just keep that in mind. Now, it's hard to talk about, essentially what's an input device for half an hour, even for me. But I really enjoyed using the pen. It's Wacom quality. What you've there's no surprises here. It's what you've come to know, what you've come to love about these devices, right? The accuracy, the feel of the pen, etc. There's really not a lot different from say the Pro Pen 2. What I think it does, though, I think it opens up the line of devices to maybe other people who weren't comfortable with the thickness of the Pro Pen 2 or any Wacom pen. Really, historically, they've always sort of been this thick, and I know that's turned some people off. I've always enjoyed any of the Wacom pens, but I can definitely see this fitting in my arsenal, when your hand's cramping up, or, like I said, I prefer this Pro Pen Slim to pencil sketching, which makes a lot of sense. Whereas if I'm inking, what I noticed in testing when I used the 3D pen, I appreciated the extra weight up at the tip when I was doing like outlines or thicker lines. As opposed to using this for more of the detail work, the thin lines. If you think about it, that makes sense, right? Now, why did they come out with this? Well, evidently, the Pro Pen 2 was just too thick to pierce the skin of an intruder. That's terrible. I'm sorry. Once again, they've introduced this at a reasonable price. It's not being forced on you. It's not a must-have, but it's a really, really nice to have. And I'm glad I have it, and I'll be using it a lot. Anyway, hopefully you liked this video. If you could do me a favor and subscribe and hit the bell and all that stuff and leave comments and any questions below, I'd appreciate it. And I'll check you guys out in the next one.